You buy a $4 coffee. The bank covers it and charges you $35 to do it. That math doesn't make sense. So let me show you exactly who it makes sense for. By the end of this, you'll understand why a fee bigger than your purchase isn't a mistake. It's the entire business model. And you'll see why almost the entire machine is paid for by a tiny group of people who can least afford it. An overdraft fee is what a bank charges when it lets a transaction go through even though you don't have the money. Sounds like a courtesy, right? A safety net? Here's the catch. The median fee at the country's largest banks is $35, and the majority of these overdrafts are for less than $26. So the service of covering your $4 coffee can cost you nearly 9 times the coffee. Now do the math on the rate. A $35 fee on a $26 overdraft paid back in under 3 days works out to an annual percentage rate of around 16,000%, higher than almost any loan on earth.
This isn't about the $4. It's about what happens after. Here's how the machine works. You swipe your card. The bank's system decides in milliseconds whether to approve the payment and eat the shortfall or decline it. If it approves, you're overdrawn and the fee hits. Now, here's the part most people miss. One bad day can trigger a stack of fees. Most big banks allow multiple overdraft fees in a single day. So imagine this, and it's not unusual. You're a few dollars low, and 4 small purchases go through. A $5 snack, a $7 ride, a $9 lunch, a $12 item. Each one overdraws the account by a little. Each one triggers its own $35 fee. You've now paid $140 in charges for about $33 of spending. And because that fee itself deepens the negative balance, a later purchase can trigger yet another charge on top of the first. The fees compound faster than the spending that caused them. The median overdraft itself was under $26. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau found that the single biggest cost to the bank from these programs is when customers can't climb back out. Yet the fees are charged whether or not the bank actually loses money on the advance. In other words, the fee isn't really priced like a loan. It's priced like a toll. So if this is such a losing deal for customers, who exactly built the machine this way? Hold that thought. Let's put a number on it. In 2023, banks alone pulled about $5.8 billion from overdraft and related fees. Add credit unions, and the total jumps to roughly $11.8 billion that same year, about $12.1 billion in 2024. Since the year 2000, the Bureau estimates the industry has collected around $280 billion from this single line item. Now, that number used to be bigger. Around 2019, banks brought in almost $12 billion from these fees. By 2023, it had roughly halved to $5.8 billion. But the trap isn't shrinking everywhere. In 2025, after the federal rule was overturned, overdraft revenue at the 20 largest banks actually rose about 4% above its 2023 level. About a quarter of U.S. households pay these fees in a typical year. Credit unions alone collected about $5.4 billion in 2024. But $5.8 billion is still $5.8 billion, and it's concentrated in a handful of names. JP Morgan Chase collected about $1.1 billion in 2023, down from over $2 billion in 2019, but still $1 billion in a year from a fee most customers think is rare. In 2025, Chase took roughly $1.1 billion again, and Wells Fargo about $900 million. Bank of America cut its fee from $35 to $10 back in 2022, and Capital One, Citibank, and Ally have dropped overdraft fees entirely. So the trap is shrinking at the edges, but the core is still very much alive. Here's what the statements don't show you. This isn't spread evenly. The Bureau found that 9% of account holders, the people who overdraft more than 10 times a year, pay 79% of all these fees. Those frequent overdrafters paid a median of $380 a year. Translation, the people least able to afford a $35 hit are the ones funding the entire system. So who's behind the trap? Start with the obvious, the big banks. But the deeper who isn't a logo, it's the design. The Bureau's own rulemaking states that institutions sometimes calibrate these systems with the goal of generating fee revenue. Over the past 30 years, as banks adopted better software and debit cards exploded, overdraft morphed from an occasional courtesy into a product that's actively promoted and quietly optimized. The government has noticed. The Bureau has brought enforcement actions over overdraft practices against Wells Fargo, Navy Federal Credit Union, and Regions Bank, ordering them to pay roughly $491 million. And here's why the fee ever escaped normal loan rules. For more than 50 years, overdraft was exempt from the Truth in Lending Act's definition of a finance charge, a loophole the 2024 rule tried to close. The people paying? About 23 million households a year. Among Americans earning under $25,000, roughly 23% got hit with a fee, versus just 6% of those earning over $150,000. The fees fall hardest on Black and other non-white households, lower income families, and those with less formal education. The trap isn't random. It's regressive by design.
Now, the loop I left open. Was anyone going to stop this? In December 2024, the Bureau finalized a rule capping big bank overdraft fees at $5, or the bank's actual cost, and requiring them to disclose it like the loan it is. The CFPB framed it as part of a broader crackdown on so-called junk fees, and estimated it would save households up to $5 billion a year, about $225 for the typical family that pays these fees. But in 2025, Congress overturned that rule. So the cap isn't enforced today, which means the lever is in your hands, not theirs.
Here's what actually works. 1. Open your account settings and opt out of debit overdraft coverage, then link a savings account as a backup. 2. Use a bank that's eliminated the fee. Several already have, including Capital One, Citibank, and Ally, and many now offer fee-free checking. 3. Turn on low balance alerts so a purchase can't blindside you. 4. If a fee hits because of a bank error or a glitch, ask for the refund in writing. Banks reverse these far more often than people realize. And 5. If something feels wrong, you can file a complaint directly with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. The trap only works if you don't know it's there. So here's the comment question. Have you ever been hit with an overdraft fee for less than the fee itself? Tell me below. And if this was news to you, hit subscribe, because next up, we're breaking down who really profits from your credit card rewards. Thanks for watching.